Chapter 9. The truck was left unattended, which meant that the three could make their move. They hastily ran to the cab of the green truck, with Tristan and Maria getting in the front of the truck. Valentine then circled round to the back of the truck, sitting next to the crimson peronium canisters. "Okay, let's get moving," said Maria, as she signalled to Tristan, who then started the engine. It roared into life, alerting all the guards and staff within the compound. There were shouts to stop and the sound of pursuit vehicles being started up as Tristan put the truck into gear and floored it, ramming through the compound's main gate. The chase was on. Through the dusty desert landscape they raced. Their pursuers in their stark white and blue police cars were fast. They were nowhere near as fast as they could go, or were shooting at them. Maria knew this, as if they were to knock the truck or hit one of the peronium canisters, there wouldn't be much of the realm left. Despite this, Valentine, on the rear of the trailer, was firing shots with precision aim that disabled the cars that were chasing them. The sound of their sirens falling into the distance was a droning relief. "Matilda, we need a pickup," shouted Valentine into his wrist communicator device, firing off another couple of shots, disabling the closest car. They sped on, reaching the Barren Creek Bridge, a rusty suspension bridge that had been around since time began. They heard a helicopter fly above them and land in front of their path across the bridge, trapping them. The truck grinded to a screeching halt, with armed officers exiting their cars and the helicopter. "Get out of the truck and step away from the peronium," barked the commander, with the guns pointed at them. The three had no choice, unless they wished for a fight to ensue, which could be a risk. Tristan and Maria got out of the truck cab slowly, with their hands above their head. Valentine got off the back of the truck, the officers shepherding them to the right side of the truck. Well, who do we have here? Some peronium thieves, I see. But not just any thieves, only the son of the leader of the Order of the Realms and two notable Nalacentralian outlaws," smugly said the commander, who knew he would be promoted and transferred off this Dust Bowl realm. "You can't hold us, we will escape," exclaimed Maria, confident that they would find a way out of this. The commander leaned in, getting in her face. "You may have once been a hero of Nalacentral, but that time has since passed. You are now an outlaw, nothing but filth and failure." There was loud bang! The helicopter had just been blown up. It was Matilda, in the Voyage Maker. She had cleared the path across the bridge. Maria and Tristan got into the truck once again, while Valentine provided some cover fire on the back of the truck. The engine of the truck groaned into life once again, and they were off. This time the commander clearly had run out of patience and started shooting at them. Those shots were getting close to the canisters. The hulking Voyage Maker, a cargo ship with 4 large ion engines that were constantly faltering, landed in a spacious clearing, lowering the portside boarding ramp, revealing its cavernous interior that the Freedom team knew all too well. The truck boarded the ship, heaving and panting from the chase, but its pursuers had pulled back, which was probably because they heard the sound of the 3 Cyclone jet fighter engines inbound from the nearby newly constructed Ranch House airbase. That was not good. "Take off and get back to Devonshire. I will deal with them," spoke Valentine firmly, activating the Delta X, his sleek experimental ship that he had had for many years now. The Delta X's engine screeched into life, with it beginning to hover in the cargo hold, its landing gear retracted. Valentine got into the cockpit and launched out from the hold to intercept the incoming fighters. The Voyage Maker then closed its ramp and began to lift off, while being shot at from afar by the officers on the ground. "You lot can't go anywhere without getting shot, can ya?" exclaimed Matilda, who was forever picking them up after something went awry in their missions. Today was no different. Chapter 10. Colonel Dramden was looking around the train yard. She had been tipped off about Colonel Heckford's staff meeting here to discuss some kind of secret organisation. Whether that was the Protectorate or not, she was unsure as the dark of night began to draw in. Her 2 guards in their black armour and helmets held their guns in anticipation of something sinister, but there was nothing as of yet. The rumble of the trains through the yard and beyond was like an earthquake as Helga walked between the tracks and beside the ballast. Realising that her effort was futile and this was just another wild goose chase spun by someone with an overactive imagination, she decided to call it a night. As she left the train yard, her 2 guards silently looked at each other, with intent in their eyes. Unaware of this, Colonel Dramden phoned her wife as the guards adjusted their weapon settings discreetly. "Hello, Sasha, it's Helga. I'm coming home now." No, just following up a lead that turned out to be a dead duck. Honestly, some informants will say anything. Her words were stopped dead by 2 blaster shots from her guards, who shot her from behind in the torso. Helga Dramden fell to the floor, her body went limp, 2 burn marks smouldered from her grey navy blue overcoat. One of the guards activated a communication device. "The threat has been eliminated." "Understood. We will stage the scene." The two guards looked at each other, readjusted their settings to stun, the default setting of all constabulary blasters, and fired at each other's shoulders. They both dropped to the floor, limp and paralysed, though unlike the Colonel, it was temporary. The morgue was a cold, dead place for the cold, dead corpses that were brought in. The poor unfortunate souls that had ended up here for either unknown reasons or had become some victim of some violent act. It was on one of the stainless steel tables that Colonel Helga Dramden lied. "How could this happen? I was talking to her and then, 2 shots, the line went dead," spluttered Sasha Dramden. She was in shock, having just identified the body of her wife. Tears streamed down her freckled cheek as she looked through the window at the figure covered by the white sheet. "Is there anyone who would wish her harm outside of work?" gently questioned High General Commissioner Katelyn Sturnon, aware of the sensitive time she knew Sasha Dramden found herself in. No, she got threats, but those were all baseless threats from political enemies, nothing more," explained Sasha, weak from the experience. "Understood. Please give the investigating detectives these threatening notes as soon as possible. The officer will show you out," said Sturnon, gesturing to the door. The coroner then stepped in to speak to the High General Commissioner. Sasha left by the double doors that squeaked as she left. Once alone, the coroner turned to Katelyn Sturnon. "High General Commissioner, I must disclose that the blast wounds match those of a JL-51 blaster rifle," gravely spoke the coroner, his grey eyes showing his age and the death and the destruction he had witnessed during his many years in office. "A JL-51? That is the standard issue weapon of the military and various armed guards of the constabulary?" asked Sturnon. She was not entirely startled by this, as she combed through her short brown hair. "Yes. Should I inform Colonel Heckford of Internal Affairs so they can take over the investigation?" queried the coroner, scratching his coarse stubble. The High General Commissioner took a moment to think. Was Heckford behind this? But how could he be? He was in his office making various phone calls. There again, she trusted Colonel Ember, her loyal number 2 for many years, and Department 4, who were given the investigation. "No, not at present. Please send all reports to Department 4. I will talk to Colonel Heckford in time myself," informed Sturnon. She knew that Colonel Dramden's primary case was to investigate Heckford. Surely she wasn't killed for that. Was she close to something other than evidence against Heckford? The coroner left the High General Commissioner alone and continued his tests. All of these questions rattled around Katelyn Sturnon's head. Pulling out her phone, she looked through her contacts, selecting those who she still trusted and sent a text. Hopefully they would all respond. Sturnon knew the Protectorate were beginning to make more moves against her, and if it all went wrong she wanted to make sure she had allies. Now all she could do was wait until tomorrow night at her house. It was all a waiting game. Chapter 11. "Matilda, I will hold off the cyclone jets. Head to heading 501.659, said Valentine over the communicator as he engaged the fighters. "Got it, Valentine. See you back at the base," agreed Matilda. Valentine then prepared his weapons array. He and the cyclone jets passed, firing cannons. Valentine then banked round as the enemy fighters formed up. He shot past the informed jets and swung around once again. His weapons were charged. He fired off his twin cannons on the starboard-most fighter of the 3 cyclone jets. It dropped down. Valentine then fired a small homing missile that disabled the portside ship that spiraled out of control, the pilot ejecting. The first jet that he had fired at returned behind him and started firing at him. Noticing this, Valentine pulled back behind the jet, firing using his twin cannons at their wings, causing the port wing to explode and sending it spiraling out of control. One cyclone left. Valentine knew that he had to finish it or it would go after the Voyage Maker. Cyclogen then swooped left and up, trying to get an angle on its target, flying through the titanic natural rock arches and down into the canyons, but no matter what, there was no way it could evade this decoy ship that was preventing it from completing its objective. The Voyage Maker began its heavy climb through the air to cruising altitude as it lumbered towards the rendezvous point, but the final cyclone jet was sweeping in its blue and white livery through the canyons below, rising to aim its missile at the Voyage Maker. But then there was an mighty explosion that rocked it and caused every bolt and metal plate to quiver. It was not the missile that hit them below, much to the desperate relief of Matilda. Rather, the final cyclone jet had had its missile blown up. While still attached by Valentine in the Delta X, they could now escape. "Thanks for the save, Valentine. Not sure the iron regulator is going to thank you," shouted Maria over the communicator, yelling profusely at Maria and Tristan how to fix the ship in the most basic terms possible. "You're welcome. Meet you back at the base," said Valentine. He then sped ahead of the Voyage Maker, powered up the Delta X's realm portal projectors, activated them and sleekly disappeared onto the realm road, travelling back to their base in the realm of Devonshire. The Voyage Maker followed suit, albeit with a slight sputter and moan from its engines. It was going to need a few replacement parts. Chapter 12. They were all sitting in her tiny living room. It was a struggle to fit everyone in. All those she had sent out messages to had come. They were, in Sturnon's opinion, the great and the good of Nala Central. There was herself, along with Colonel Robert Ember, her loyal number 2 and colonel of the civilian constabulary, Colonel Abigail Lamasters, the calm and level-headed colonel of the military following her team's disbandment, and Colonel David Bruce, the well-mannered colonel of the Air Force. Additionally, she had some of her old friends from Department 4, including Captain Augustus Montgomery, Sergeant Ashley Turner, Ricky and Spanner, the latter 3 being the very best of the mechanics and engineers, and Major Jonathan Stephen Smith, once the loyal second to the missing Captain Mannery. Further entries into this group of trusted comrades included the new heroes, Wisp, the firefighter, graffiti builder, cold explorer and racer, Squadron Leader Kyle Bruce, the son of David Bruce and ace pilot, Principal Instructor Andrew Ammo Wicks, the weapons master of the missing Captain Mannery and of Task Force 71, and the remaining members of Task Force 71, Captain Maria Lamasters, Lieutenant Curtis Michael Bolt, and Sergeant Charlotte Blast Fount. All in all, there was barely any room to breathe. There was a bubble of whispering and shuffling as Sturnon stood in the doorway to the living room. The room looked towards her, Ammo squeaking on the 3-seater yellow couch as he got comfortable. The whispers died down. Sturnon straightened her tie and badge, looking towards the room, focusing on Robert Ember, who stroked his black beard gently and gave her a reassuring nod. She then looked at everyone else and addressed the room. "Good evening. Thank you all for coming. I've asked you all here to shield against the potential threat of this protectorate that is rising and is coming to prominence in the news. I assume you have all seen the articles and reports?" The room all nodded. They were all concerned at the growing number of articles and reports speculating on this protectorate, and were getting numerous questions from the press and other officers. Although a man of relatively few words, Ammo raised his hand and spoke in his deep voice that reverberated off everyone and everything within the small chamber. "I'm worried. I've got instructors suspicious of each other. There's something going on down in the halls of the constabulary. Pretty sure there are some secret club meetings in the basement. Not checked it out yet. They've been sneaky." Abigail Masters seconded that and raised her hand, sweeping her jet-black hair across and then calmly explaining her view. "I agree with Ammo. David and Robert can second this. Our commanders are either trying to become very friendly, almost as if to shield their careers, or are becoming very distant, almost dismissive of our orders, to the point where it is impossible to implement policy successfully." Colonels Bruce and Ember signalled their agreement. "So what are we going to do? If this protectorate are going to make their final move soon, I don't want me or my family to be around when it happens," said Major Smith. The room accepted this. Whatever this protectorate was planning, they all feared that their positions and potentially lives could be in grave jeopardy. The room looked towards Sturnon, and she knew she had to come up with something. I think I have a lead. Following the death of Colonel Dramden, I have a feeling I know who is a senior member of this protectorate." The room leaned in, with the furniture and flooring giving a collective squeak and moan, as Sturnon spoke. "It is my belief that Colonel Sebastian Heckford is part of them." A collective gasp engulfed the room. To even consider the Colonel of Internal Affairs was part of such a conspiracy would be scandalous. To even act on these suspicions would be completely unprecedented. "If that is the case, we will have to leave not only our careers, but our homes in this realm. But we could not go by conventional means. We would get caught," exclaimed Captain Augustus Montgomery. The rest of the assembled were curious as to how they would get away. By all of the talk and plans that were building, they knew that it would be inevitable that this protectorate would soon become a public force, one that could rip apart the constabulary itself. "I think I know a team that could lead us to safety," piped up Maria Lamasters, though she knew that if they knew who she was thinking about contacting, they would think she was mad. "May I ask who it is, Maria, given we will be trusting our lives and that of our families in whoever's hands?" questioned David Bruce. While he knew his son and wife were both adequate fighters, he was concerned about those who were not able to fight. "You're going to have to trust me. If we meet at Nala Central Grand Park, there will be a transport ship to get us out of this realm," explained Maria. The ex-cold-blooded killer mercenary Kieran Valentine and his crew were not the most palatable of allies, but in this dire situation they found themselves in, the group were going to have to accept it. Very well, if we are agreed, we will use the defunct frequency 83.92 to signal when it is time to go, said Sturnon, more confident than she had been in the face of this looming threat of the Protectorate, who were gaining allies and officers of the constabulary daily. Those collected in the living room accepted Sturnon and Maria's plans, leaving in an exodus, going home and to the office to prepare for their upcoming evacuation. Sturnon watched from her tiled front porch as they all drove away. The threat of the Protectorate now felt very real and very immediate. She had to now get evidence against Heckford and hope that she was right, and that she had not just revealed her plans to the real leader of the Protectorate.